We always talk to every member, and when there's something major, we always reach out to everybody.
Okay, not reach out to the members, but then we come up with a decision.
Right, but we're not claiming to be.
We don't do any change.
We're not claiming to be speaking for the community. We're claiming to speak for ourselves. There's a big difference. I just hope that point is seen. That's the thing here. When you have people go off speaking for the air rights, they're speaking for the community, and
Yeah, I
there's
want to
50
hear about that, because
organizations.
I'm on the board, and I guess I missed that.
Well, I guess there was a meeting about
They
that.
showed up tomorrow. And Rex and Michael.
And they did
Yeah,
speak
let's get through everybody, because there's some things.
Because it's getting really late, we don't have to sit down longer.
I can't-
Even start talking.
But, you know, by the way, I hope you, I like this process. Barbara?
Well, besides freaking out at community meetings, I enjoy passing parks, actually. My children are not very sports-minded, and so I like to just go to the park and just hang out. Been on the board since inception. Have ran the website for years and years when it was just a little piddly website, and then we got a nice grant, and we were able to hire Heather. And so I mostly concern myself with grant writing to further the website, and that's generally what I do.
And by the way, Barbara quietly has done a lot of detailed work that nobody else wants to do.
Barbara, it's a beautiful website. I don't think anyone denies that. But I think, but it's, yeah.
It's just, I just feel a little underappreciated. But I do have to say that I feel like that the reason that we did not meet for so many years was more that we could barely meet as a board.
Yeah.
And we had no infrastructure for trying to get anything done. And it was all volunteer. It was extremely difficult to get anything done. And for years we did nothing. You know, we kept the website going. We tried to communicate with people as best we could through the website and email. And
We did apply for the boathouse, and the boat.
that's now.
Yeah.
I'm talking about years ago. I'm talking about like 5 years ago.
I don't think any, I mean, I don't think anybody intended for things to go that way, right? But the fact is that our example is a good example. The name was used to represent an issue that we weren't on board with. Or no, at the time we were on board with part of it, but you know, that's a big issue. Not representing the community. That was all the more reason not to represent the entire community because everybody knew that the organization was stressed.
I think that's the reason for this meeting and why we're trying to put things right now.
Yeah,
We wanted to hear what people had to say. We wanted to figure out what were the issues that were important. We wanted to dissolve the board and start over again. You know, we want a totally fresh people to come in and help us figure out what our vision should be. We know we love the website. We want to keep the website going. But what are the other things that are important to us?
But when you say we, you mean the GWAP board.
There is no block board. There's a nominating committee right now.
Right.
I personally am not going to let the use of that name go. All right. As hard as I fought for the bathroom in Barge Park, as many times as I called politicians, you guys all know that. Right? That's how I'm going to hammer at this until that name is let go or until it's an open process. It just can't go on. You know, we like I said, we felt that having our name used when we weren't participants in it. But I think we really need to. That's going to be a first step.
It seems like the first step is process. Like, what is the process going forward to make it as transparent as possible?
I don't see how that's possible with a private room. Because it'll be the same small group of people just making. If you're not able to do that open process now, how are you going to do it on? How is that going to work?
The way it works with NAG. You know, NAG has to have consensus with the group that they private board as well.
But I don't believe do they have a member organization?
They never did.
So that's the difference. They went out and said that they're representing
still could do
that,
anything
but
they wanted to
they
do.
weren't saying that they were representing 40 organizations or 20 organizations. There's a huge difference.
I just think that, speaking about block, that it does have a lot of name recognition. We do have a voice in the community to be able to push through a lot of the changes that we want for the rezoning, for the parks, getting parks and open space. And I would hate to see that go by the wayside.
I can understand that.
Everyone's name. When you went to the meetings, you said you were walk. They looked up and said, well, St. Anthony's is on board. This person's on board. That person's on board. I'm sitting at the meeting and St. Anthony's doesn't know anything about why you guys are speaking about Greenpoint Landing. So now I go to, Father Soja and I go, do you know that we're a part of this? And he, no. And then we find out you've never contacted them for years. I talked to everybody who's been there for a long time. I had to call my mother in Iowa and she goes, well, I was with the power plant thing. I was against. There was a Greenpoint Bank when they had the meeting. It was Father Chuck. Now, do I have to go see him in retirement and say, Father Chuck, when was the last time you remember being at a meeting?
Father Chuck was the representative then.
That my mom told me. She's nice enough to inform me.
You're right. What happens is that, the original structure, we had big community meetings. I don't know whether the church wouldn't get the announcement or whether nobody got mailed directly, whatever it is. That's why we're here. We're just here to change stuff. I want to get for everybody, because it's 10 after 8, we only have the room till 9. The young lady next to Barbara.
My name is Heidi Farrell. I am a native New Yorker. I'm a native Brooklynite, but I've only been living in Greenpoint for about 2 years. And I have always, I think since I'm from New York, I see so much gentrification happening in so many different neighborhoods that I've lived in. I've lived in Bushwick and Bed-Stuy and Brooklyn Heights, and I grew up in like a lower middle class family, so I see like a lot of people getting pushed out all the time, and it's a really key element to me, and I think that that's something that's really important. And moving to different neighborhoods, I also experience individuals who come in and try to enrich the environment that they're in, the neighborhood, the community, and a lot of times, often what I see is that those people also get pushed out, and many times it's because those are the people that came in, they gentrified a neighborhood, and then it became too expensive for them to live in it, and then they got kicked out, so like there are a lot of different levels in which that kind of thing happens, and I feel like I've been a little bit absent in my involvement in it, because since I'm from here, I just see change happening so constantly and consistently throughout my life as far as developments go. So I feel kind of like it's an inevitability. I had no idea that these are the issues that would come up at like a panel discussion, which are all very interesting to me. But I also feel like there are a lot of people that do want to get involved in the preservation of their neighborhoods. And the reason I am seeing possibly that it's a little bit difficult to facilitate that is like issues that we've just been discussing, or you guys have been discussing tonight, are totally relevant issues that are preventative to having like more people kind of being able to come in to the discussion. It prevents people from being able to talk. So, I think that it's interesting. And
How do we get more of you here?
I was observing it. I like, I think that the people that I enjoy communicating with about Greenpoint specifically are people who have been kicked out of Greenpoint already. Luckily I'm still here. I live in an affordable place that has some sort of, controlled, stable situation. And I advocate for that for sure. But I also feel like, a lot of the people that I know that have been living in Greenpoint, they can't afford it. It's already too expensive for them. The same thing has been happening like throughout Williamsburg, and I was just describing this earlier when I came in. There are a lot of individuals that come here, like local vendors that we have that are they're good. I feel like they help open up the discussion about like sustainability in the community, and we want to think about like local commerce, and we want to think about like how those people are contributing instead of driving up, the property value basically. And like that's the thing that's really interesting to me. Like in my mind, preservation just means that like we want to kind of control the developmental side or the development side. So knowing that there's like a high-rises that are happening on Commercial Street that are kind of they're being discussed right now has been kind of like a point of interest, and I just want to like learn more about it. But I definitely like to communicate with people who are like, the artists and musicians in Greenpoint. They are doing a lot. Like they have a lot of great ideas. I feel like that's a community in itself that is possibly they're doing more that I'm not aware of. I'm really just. I want to be able to communicate to those people, like, in my mind, I feel like the creative individuals who are living in Greenpoint right now, currently, it's in their best interest to, like, maintain a state of, regulation sort of inside of Greenpoint to prevent it from, like, the same thing happening, like people just, like, not being able to afford the living space, not being able to, like, have the environment that they want to be in, not to feel, not feel safe, to feel like there are too many bars, like I definitely feel that like I work at a bar that's in Greenpoint, and like I constantly am thinking about that currently, where I say like, okay, the owner of this bar has a 13-year lease, like how does that person envision this community that exists and is comprised of people who have been living here for 50 years, you know what I mean, plus and minus. So I just want to, I want to come to these meetings, and I would like it if they were a little bit more frequent so that some of these issues that haven't been resolved can be resolved, because it seems like at the state of trying to overhaul even the name of it will require people kind of meeting more in order to, like, resolve those things. Because it would be exciting for myself and a lot of other people that I know. I'm kind of coming here because a lot of my friends have been talking about it, and like we're like, well, how do we keep this situation that we have here? We like it. We don't want it to change. We don't want more people coming in. There are like tons and tons of issues that you have to think about. I want to be able to just see where things stand for some organization. It seems like exciting that there was this, and that Barbara's contributing to it, and there's a really strong website, and it would just be cool to see like if it would be possible if people just had like a joint interest in maybe having meetings more often or resolving some of these issues of the names or of these extenuating circumstances of people representing other members that may or may not have been aware, So that's what I want to see, actually. And aside from issues in Greenpoint, like I think that the board itself